We've got a fun AFC matchup and also an internal Tracy battle as our mom's team, the Cleveland Browns, fly to my dad's team, the Indianapolis Colts, for a fun matchup. Both teams are at 500 or above 500. The Colts are 3-3 after a tough loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars, while the Browns are coming off a shocking victory. I believe their biggest upset victory when it comes to the sports books. I believe they're 9.5-point dogs against the 49ers. And shockingly, thanks to a missed field goal, and I'll just be completely honest, a couple of injuries, pulled off the win, and a win is a win in the NFL. Does not matter. Huge, huge victory for the Cleveland Browns. Keeps them in the fight of the AFC North as we're a third of the way through the season. And honestly, and just huge shout out as well to PJ Walker. He's a guy I've always enjoyed watching him. He was he had, I think, some good games last year with the Carolina Panthers, and it's fun to see him be successful in this offense, especially the Browns team, who also themselves, to be completely fair as well, have some major injuries also. Lost Nick Chubb, lost Jack Conklin, and Deshaun Watson as well. But hey, Deshaun Watson, though, turns out they don't need Deshaun Watson. Turns out they gave away all those draft picks because PJ Walker is their guy. So no, I'm just joking around. But still, though, I think it goes to show, and in our prediction video, it's what we talked about a little bit as well, as the heart of this Browns team is this defensive front. Myles Garrett leading the way. Trent Williams to get a little banged up, and then that allowed Myles Garrett and that defensive front to just absolutely feast on Brock Purdy, constantly providing pressure, really stymied that San Francisco offense. And still, in general, no matter if it's players or not, if the defensive front can provide pressure, then it's just going to be tough for any offense to score. And that's, at the end of the day, I think was one of the reasons why they were able to stay in the game and come out victorious. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup as well because the Colts also have a good offensive line here. They might be a little banged up coming into this game. As right now, look at Braden Smith. He seemed like he did get banged up in the last game. His name's in red on the depth chart according to our lads. So that's going to be something to monitor. But in general, though, the Colts offensive line has been one of the better units in the 2023 NFL season so far. I've been talking a lot. I want to throw it over to you. What are some of your expectations so far for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a physical game. I expect it to be even lower scoring than the 1917 win that the Browns had last week. And for me, I think you just look at the numbers. The Colts, the Browns, probably one of the best defenses in the league in terms of yards allowed per game. Only giving up 223 yards per game, about 155 or 154 through the air, and only 79 on the ground. So definitely one of the more stout run defenses. But then, I mean, they're very stingy in the passing game as well. Whereas on the flip side, the Colts are giving up about 265 yards a game through the air and about 114 yards through on the ground. And so, like, to me, defensively, the Browns have the clear edge here. They have one of the premier defenses in the NFL, and that's been on display so far this year with Myles Garrett leading the way. So that for me, and then I think you look at what these offenses want to do. The Colts maybe, I don't want to say are one-dimensional, but with Gardner Minshew at the helm, they're having to spread the ball around a little bit more than when Anthony Richardson was there and they were running the ball a lot. And so for me, this game, I think, is going to play right into the Browns' hands just because it's going to be a low-scoring, hard-nosed defense-style game, and they have the much better defense.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Also, two reports coming out, just saw this while I was watching the Chargers game, is that it seems like Anthony Richardson might be out for the season. And I think the reason why it might be out is it seemed like when his injury diagnosis for his shoulder, his injury, his AC joint sprain came out, it was about 4 to 8 weeks. But if you look at it, if you're thinking of it on the longer end and the Colts aren't in contention, they're not going to rush him back because this is our prized possession that we just spent a 4th overall pick on. Yeah. And so you're just going to let's just get fully rest up, just keep learning this year, and let's just see if we can ride Gardner Minshew all the way to the playoffs. And we've talked about this before, is the ceiling for the Colts offense is significantly lower with Gardner Minshew, but it is also actually the floor is significantly higher. I feel like you know exactly what you're going to get. I feel like the Colts are going to be about in that. It seems like every game going to be low 20s scoring every single time. They're going to be able to put up a couple touchdowns, get a couple field goal drives. So you kind of know what you're going to get. But and a lot of it is, to your point, they become very more traditional. Running between the tackles with Zach Moss or Jonathan Taylor, and then when they more just kind of set passing plays, not too many QB rollouts or RPOs. But then when it comes to the Browns, it's going to be interesting now with PJ Walker because there is still some of that elusiveness, dynamicness, because he does have the legs to roll out of the pocket if nobody's open. He's able to go get a couple of yards.
Yeah,
but that is going to be interesting to watch. And in general, skill position player wise, they are still fairly healthy. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, DPJ, all leading the way. David Njoku is still a beast, and he's doing this with all of his burn injuries, which is absolutely insane. One of the toughest things I think I've ever seen. And then when it comes to running backs, it doesn't really matter who's in the backfield as long as this Browns offensive line just keeps pushing away. So it's going to be interesting here. The battle of the backup QBs with, I would say, just kind of in general stout defenses overall, especially on defensive lines. Before we get into predictions, if you're still here with us in the video, we appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, help us reach our goal of getting to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the season. And then if we can get that, then we'll see if we can get to 2,300, which that will be 2,000 for the whole year. That'd be great. Ryan, who do you feel is going to win this game, Cleveland or Indianapolis?
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns here. I kind of mentioned it earlier. I just think this offense is better. Even with PJ Walker under center, and this defense is just going to be so stout. And you mentioned it, the Colts are always going to be around that low, like high teens, low 20s range. I think just with Gardner Minshew at the helm. But the thing is, I think this Browns defense is going to create for this offense, and the Browns will be able to get into the mid to high 20s. And I just think that'll be too much for the Colts to overcome.
Yeah. I do like PJ Walker, and I do like what he brings to the table. I am actually also going to lean towards Cleveland in this one. I just have a feeling that also, too, Alec Pierce got banged up in this Jacksonville game. His status will be questioned. He hasn't brought too much to the table statistically, but at the same time, he does have that speed, and he's their vertical threat guy. It makes those safeties have to trust and respect that speed, which can open up the field down below. So if he is not playing and it's just Pittman and Downs, and then who is going to be the guy who would replace him? Amari Rodgers. Isaiah McKenzie is also there, but he's more of the slot guy behind Josh Downs. I think it might even make them more one-dimensional, bring those safeties up a little bit on just this already really good Browns team. So I'm going to go with Cleveland as well. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. Honestly, something like 19-17. I'll go with 17-14 Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say I think there's going to be a lot of field goals. So I'll say 23-16. I'll just make it an odd number for fun. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out in this AFC matchup. Is it going to be the Cleveland Browns? Is it going to be the Indianapolis Colts? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.